there's nobody in the building that brings me more joy or is more fun to be around than Nathaniel Hackett. Hack has been a really important part of our culture change and a part of our success on offense. I love him. Hope he doesn't go anywhere. Unless I do.
If Packers fans didn't enjoy last offseason, then you guys are really not going to enjoy this offseason, because the Green Bay Packers will have to overcome significantly more in order to retain the services of Aaron Rodgers, and to be honest, I can't make any sense of it. Let me know in the comment section down below if you're a Packers fan. Why should Aaron Rodgers stay? More importantly, why should the Green Bay Packers keep Aaron Rodgers even if he wants to stay? And before we get to the content, just a reminder, we're giving away $500 to a subscriber that turns on our notifications on this channel, and an additional $500 to a follower on our Instagram page. Now that we get all that out of the way,
it's fun coming to work, and it's because those guys have such a great presence in front of the room. So I think both Hack and Getsy can really relate to the guys. They're younger. Hack's been around the game forever. His dad is a legend. He's got a great energy about him. They can both lead and be in front of a room and I think captivate an audience.
Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Last year, Aaron Rodgers sent the entire NFL world on one hell of a frenzy. I mean, this man was so freaking unpredictable that by the end of it, people were starting to call into question how legitimate of a source Adam Schefter truly was. That's absolutely insane, by the way. People were hating on one of the top insiders in our industry. That's how difficult it is to actually track what Aaron Rodgers was thinking. And in that instance, Aaron Rodgers' frustration came from the fact that he didn't agree with Brian Gutekunst, the general manager of the Green Bay Packers, methodology of constructing a team. He didn't like the fact that he cut Jake Kumaro, a practice squad wide receiver. He resented the fact that he drafted Jordan Love in a wide receiver heavy draft. And when training camp started for this past season, he came out and validated all of the things that the insiders were saying about him.
So we got into March and the conversation changed. As I felt like if you can't commit to me past 2021, and I'm not a part of recruiting process and for agency, if I'm not a part of the future, then instead of letting me be a lame duck quarterback, if you want to make a change and move forward, then go ahead and do it.
Aaron Rodgers was very frustrated with how things were going down. Eventually, the Green Bay Packers gave him a signing bonus, changed up his contract to be voidable 1 year sooner, and Aaron Rodgers decided to reward the Green Bay Packers with a loss in the divisional round of the NFL playoffs as opposed to the conference championship. Which brings us to where we are currently. We are due for a pretty crazy offseason between Tom Brady potentially retiring, not because he's not dominating anymore, but because he wants to spend time with his family. As a 44-year-old man that literally accomplished everything there is to do in the NFL, he has the right to yearn for that. And while there's a question whether that Hall of Famer is going to return to the NFL or not, there's a question about another Hall of Fame QB in the NFC as to what he is going to do for his next act. Now, I'm going to address the very first thing Green Bay Packers fans are thinking. Mike, how do you know Aaron Rodgers is leaving for sure? Because at this point, it just makes sense for not only Aaron Rodgers to leave the Green Bay Packers, but for the Green Bay Packers to move on from Aaron Rodgers. To start, Aaron Rodgers is near 40 years old, and you could trade him to any team and at least get 2 first-round picks in return for him. That's how damn good he is. At the same time, it makes a lot of sense to do that because, one, your team is absolutely getting decimated by the salary cap. The Green Bay Packers are the second most capped out team behind the New Orleans Saints. Of course, you could fix that with contract restructuring, but it's still something that I don't even know is worth fighting for at this point. The Green Bay Packers were healthy. Their defense was as strong as it's been in quite some time, and yet here you are, once again, falling short of expectations. I mean, you lost to a warm weather team in the NFC divisional playoffs, for crying out loud. This team is not worth fighting for, no offense. Especially when you have Jordan Love on a rookie scale contract who's going into his 3rd year. At this point, you need to figure out whether or not this man is the future of your franchise. And by trading away one of your larger contracts in Aaron Rodgers, getting 2 first-round picks, which are going to be playing on rookie contracts, and playing with a quarterback on a rookie scale contract as well, and depending on whether they franchise tag tag Davante Adams or if they signed Davante Adams or not, which we're going to get to in a little bit, the Green Bay Packers could fix their contract situation. At the same time, if you look at Aaron Rodgers, at this point, it seems like he's given his all to the Green Bay Packers. He's done absolutely everything he could with what he was given to make that team successful. And on the Green Bay Packers side, I think they've given him sufficient tools for success. So at this point, at the age of 40, trading him for 2 first-round picks makes sense for the Green Bay Packers, and it would make Aaron Rodgers happy. It's also important to note that even though this is what sounds reasonable to me, on the record and the official information that we are given is that the Green Bay Packers leadership are all unified on wanting Aaron Rodgers to come back. Matt LaFleur said that every conversation that I've been involved in with Brian Gutekunst and Russ and Mark, we're all on the same page here, and there is no debate. Matt LaFleur also said that I want to be respectful of his process and whatever he needs to go through to make the best decision for himself, and certainly we would love for him to be a Packer and be a Packer to the day he decides to retire. He also addressed the fact that Aaron Rodgers said that he would not want to be a part of a rebuild by saying that there is no plan for a rebuild. You get this close, obviously win a lot of football games, and we know in order for there not to be that, he's got to be a part of this thing. I don't think that's anybody's intention. Now, what team would he want to go to? Well, Aaron Rodgers clarified just a little bit on the Pat McAfee show. And believe it or not, a lot of his decision ties directly to Davante Adams. This is kind of adorable. It's kind of like Tom Brady bringing Rob Gronkowski with him to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It looks like Aaron Rodgers is going to want to do the same with Davante Adams. Now, originally, Aaron Rodgers said that he would have a decision by the time free agency begins, which is March 16th. But he also offered the possibility that it could be even sooner. If the Packers are using the franchise tag on Davante Adams, the all-pro wide receiver, they can do so as early as February 22nd, but no later than March 8th. Rodgers has already said that he does not want to be part of a rebuild. We covered that in our previous video, and likely considers anything without Davante Adams to be just that. And likewise for Adams. He would almost certainly prefer to be able to explore his options if Rodgers doesn't return to the Packers. He then said, I'd like to be respectful of the organization. One decision that will be upcoming will obviously be Davante and his future with the team. There's still this thing called the franchise tag, which I don't think Davante Adams wants to be franchise tagged. I don't think any player ever wants to be franchise tagged, if I'm being honest, unless if you could pull off a Dak Prescott where you get tagged 2 years in a row and then get a super crazy contract on top of that, which is also what happened to Kirk Cousins, I believe. Now, he said, I think that should be enough time to make a decision by then. I don't want to put myself on a specific date, but I do want to be sensitive to Davante and many other guys who have decisions to make on their own futures. To drag it out past free agency would be disrespectful to the organization and to those guys, and that 100% will not happen. So interestingly enough, it seems like Aaron Rodgers wants to team up with Davante Adams, and he's also being very respectful of the future for the Green Bay Packers. It seems like it's a foregone conclusion that he's going to leave. I don't think there's any question. Just the way he's discussing it at this point, it seems like he's going to seek out a different team. Again, the Green Bay Packers, $44.8 million over the projected salary cap for the 2022 season. Aaron Rodgers continued to say what you could come to expect, saying that he feels like he's in a good place relationally with the Green Bay Packers, in a really good place, especially with their general manager, Brian Gutekunst, where it would be just a simple conversation and whatever comes out of the conversation is moving forward. There's not going to be a weird standoff, a war of silence or anything. Brian and him had great conversations throughout the year, and when it comes time for a decision, they're going to have a conversation and it'll be that. It's not going to be a drawn out process. He definitely said retirement isn't going to happen. He also said that he's not going to sit out for an entire year. So it comes down to Davante Adams. Now, what's the most likely team to acquire Aaron Rodgers? Well, about a year ago, we all thought it would be the Denver Broncos, and the most telling sign was when the Denver Broncos, who are a very quarterback needy team, passed on the opportunity to draft Justin Fields, which I know in hindsight kind of might look like a good decision, although it's very premature to determine that so far, in order to draft Patrick Surtain II, which was a great pick in hindsight, but again, quarterback was a huge need for them. At that point, that fueled a bunch of rumors that Aaron Rodgers was bound to be traded for the Broncos. Mark Schlereth even came out and said it on Twitter.
And I get a text from a very reliable source, not in Denver, outside of Denver, somebody who has never steered me wrong, who I believe wholeheartedly exactly what this person tells me, is that this thing is heating up and it's close to a done deal in Denver. Aaron Rodgers.
Damn.
So I go on the radio and say, hey, man, I'm just getting this information. And,
you're
I don't know. It still could fall through, obviously, but it's close. So anyhow, it kind of dies down. Some people tamp it down here in Denver. But then, it's not a text message, it's direct message via text from Aaron. And he goes, who's your source? What are you hearing? And I'm like, well, this is what I heard. I go, is it true? You want to come over and get some dinner? I mean, what's going on? And so he didn't pour cold water on it. He just said, I'll let you know as soon as I know.
And ultimately, it didn't happen. Now, as a result, the Denver Broncos traded for a bridge quarterback named, ironically, Teddy Bridgewater, and it seems like they're making some significant changes this offseason. For one, they fired Vic Fangio, so that means their head coaching position is open. But two, they are also looking into hiring Nathaniel Hackett. Now, according to Jordan Schultz, one of the rising stars in the insider industry, which I usually like telling you how trustworthy a source is, Jordan Schultz, I'll put him right below Ian Rappaport and Adam Schefter. He's fairly new. There have been instances where he's made predictions that were incorrect, but for the most part, he does say good stuff from time to time. Said that Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams would love to team up with the Denver Broncos. Now, you might be thinking, okay, Mike, this is an old rumor. What's different this time? Well, Jordan Schultz continues to say that the icing on the cake would be Nathaniel Hackett is very likely to be the next Broncos head coach. He has a good relationship with both Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams. Plus, don't forget Denver's abundance of cap space. Now, this is what's interesting. Not only did Ben Albright retweet that bit from Jordan Schultz in regards to Aaron Rodgers potentially joining the Denver Broncos if they were to hire Nathaniel Hackett, but this morning we found out that the Denver Broncos officially hired Nathaniel Hackett. So in this instance, it seems like Denver checks off a bunch of boxes. One, they have a pretty damn good wide receiver core. I mean, if you just look at that wide receiver core, man, off the top of my head, you got Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, Noah Fant has shown some potential as the tight end of the Denver Broncos. They have a pretty nice running game as well with Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams, and their defense is absolutely insane, even despite Von Miller leaving. And I wouldn't be surprised if Von Miller was to return to the Denver Broncos on a significantly smaller contract should he find out that Aaron Rodgers is going there. The Broncos love rebuilding their teams like this. They love pursuing a Hall of Fame quarterback, giving him the tools he needs to succeed to make a Super Bowl run. That's how John Elway won his last Super Bowl as the general manager of the Denver Broncos, and that's how he's trying to look for this one, because he has not been able to hit on a quarterback draft pick ever since. The Denver Broncos also have a decent, slightly above average offensive line. This seems like a very ideal situation for Aaron Rodgers to play his final years in the NFL. He gets to move over to the AFC, and there was a rumor that he would love to consistently duel with Patrick Mahomes in his exact same division. Could you imagine that? We've never seen Aaron Rodgers face off against Patrick Mahomes yet, and in this instance, we would get to see them face off against each other at the very least twice a year, assuming that they don't also beat each other in the postseason as well. This would make the AFC West so freaking competitive, by the way. I mean, just looking at it, the Los Angeles Chargers are an exciting up-and-coming team. The Kansas City Chiefs are, well, the Kansas City Chiefs, who have made it to the AFC Championship ever since drafting Patrick Mahomes. The Las Vegas Raiders, despite a tumultuous season, were able to sneak into the playoffs. And then you have the Denver Broncos, who have a ton of cap space, who are rumored to be targeting Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers. Now, at the end of the day, I don't see the Green Bay Packers just giving Davante Adams away for free. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they proceed, because once you have an asset like Davante Adams, you should not let him go for nothing. Like, that's not smart business. You don't just trade away someone just because you're feeling sentimental and say, oh, it would be so cute if Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams left together. It's very important to note, Davante Adams had 1,553 passing yards, 11 touchdowns, and 123 receptions this past year. You don't just give that away. Either way, whether he has Davante Adams to throw to or Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, and Jerry Jeudy to throw the football to, I see Aaron Rodgers being very successful if he goes to Denver. On the flip side, I see the Green Bay Packers moving forward and starting their rebuild off properly, with multiple first-round picks from the Broncos going to the Green Bay Packers. Now, is this the only team that could potentially acquire Aaron Rodgers? No, the Pittsburgh Steelers also come to mind, but I think this is the best team for him. So let me know in the comment section down below. Green Bay Packers fans, what do you think is going to happen? Denver Broncos fans, how do you feel about this scenario? I'd like to hear what you have to say. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.